being wonderful to work with. We have a number of league members here. You will see them wandering around taking charge of things. Feel free to thank them if you like the way the form went at the end. We have people walking around with baskets with cards and pencils. If you want to ask a question, write one question per card, and then the vetters will go through it. The reason for the vetters is not only to take out abusive and personal questions, but also to make sure there are a range of issues and that the cards are legible. It is more likely that your question will be read if somebody can read it. Right? Note to self. We hope you'll consider joining the league, which you can do on our website. At the table out there, there's a QR code, and there's also the URL. The League of Women Voters is not just for women only. Bella Wang and I will co-moderate this evening. Neither of us is a voter in Glen Cove. Now, for over a century, the League of Women Voters has sought to make democracy work by holding events like this so voters like you can hear the views and observe the behavior of candidates on a range of issues relevant to this community. That is why we ensure all candidates agree to a set of procedures, and further, by being here tonight, you, the audience, have also agreed. The procedures are on the door. If you need to read them, feel free. Basically, it has to do with civil behavior, letting the candidates speak, and we're here for the candidates, not the audience. We've used procedures like this for over 60 years to ensure fair process and encourage civil discourse. I'm now going to read the procedures out loud. This will take about 3 minutes. I apologize in advance, but this way everybody's heard it. The moderator will be a member of the league from outside the district. I live in Manhasset and Bella lives in New York City. Candidates' opening statements will be determined by drawing lots before the in-person events. The same order will be for opening and closing. Ms. Panzenbeck, I was thinking Panda, I'm going, pots and pans. Panzenbeck will go first, Mr. Maragos will go second. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes for an opening statement. After all the candidates have spoken, the moderator, will open the meeting with questions from the audience. Cards have been handed out. These will be vetted to avoid duplicative, personal, abusive, biased questions, or error. The moderator will be the arbiter of whether questions are appropriate, repetitive, or abusive. Each candidate will be given 1.5 minutes to answer each question. At the moderator's discretion, the time for response may be reduced as long as it is the same for everyone. There will be no rebuttals. Questions may be addressed to a specific candidate, although all candidates will be given an opportunity to answer any question, even if addressed to a specific individual. The moderator will attempt to rotate the order of responses for each question. A league member will act as timekeeper. 1.5 minutes before any end of any given time raise a high, 30 seconds. Candidates, audience, okay. Never mind. Marie has just held up the 30-second sign. When time is up, please hold up the stop sign. Okay. The speaker will be allowed to finish the sentence. Repeatedly speaking past the deadline may result in a candidate losing time for a future question or for others getting additional time. Candidates will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Since the purpose of the meeting is to determine the candidate's views, no substitute speaker will be allowed to appear should a candidate be unable to attend in person. No written or recorded statement may be provided in lieu of active participation. Using props, charts, or visuals, or displaying campaign literature is prohibited. In accordance with league policy, the league owns the content of its forums. Audio or video recording by authorized members of the media will only be permitted if agreed by all candidates present. The league maintains the right to record the forum, which as you can see we're doing, and we will post it on our league YouTube channel, probably by tomorrow. So it may even go up tonight, depends how tired I am. No other recording will be allowed. No partial transcript or recording may be published without written permission from the league. These may not be used in campaign materials or in advocating for one or the other candidates. So we ask everybody who might want to take a video to not do that, to instead tell your friends and family members who couldn't be here tonight to watch it on the YouTube channel, where it will be presented only in its entirety. Thank you. So I see, is that a camera? Sir with a blue picture. Oh. Okay, keep your camera down, thank you. I'll say, we have 2 blue shirts with cameras up. Can you please?
I'm from Nassau County NY News, and I have every right to record this meeting. This is a taxpayer-owned facility. This is owned by the public, and you have no right to prevent anybody from videotaping in this
Actually,
building.
that's been litigated.
Everybody in here.
Sir, that has been litigated, and we have every right, if you show us your credentials.
The credentials are right here.
No. And what, is this a national news or local?
Yeah,
news?
Nassau County NY News on Long Island, LLC, yeah.
So and you will show it in its entirety. You need permission from us to do this. Happy to give permission, but the permission means you need to show it.
Ma'am, I have sent requests to you, and you are unresponsive.
They don't know who you sent it to.
You refuse live streaming because of the reason that you're saying right now. I don't understand why you would want to have a Meet the Candidates night. You have people here. Why wouldn't you want more people to see this event?
We do. It's going to be posted. The high school could not do the live streaming.
Well, I do.
Oh, so you are live streaming it to a news?
Right now, you're being watched by
fine.
over 25,000 people in Nassau County.
If in fact 25,000 are tuned in, but even if there's 5 tuned in, that's fine.
Well, I have 25,000 people that follow my live stream.
Okay, so, and you are publishing it in its entirety?
In its entirety. I do not edit anything.
Thank you. That's like a real news person. Thank you.
Credentials are required as a New York City police correspondent.
You can't show clips.
I will not, out of courtesy, I won't put anybody on camera, only you folks right here.
Thank you. That is an ethical way of doing it.
Thank you for your courtesy, thank you.
As moderators, Bella and I will be the arbiters of all decisions during the debate. We just made a decision, you saw it in action. We did check first. Now Bella will lay out audience expectations and take over. Thank you, Bella.
Thank you, Judy. So as you said, we are here tonight because we believe that citizenship requires both voter education and civic engagement. We believe the responsibility for maintaining good government rests on you, the voters. So we have some expectations for you in a numbered list. First, be sure that your cell phones are turned off or silenced, and please do not block the doors or the camera, which is right there. 2, your purpose is to hear from candidates, so let's focus on their voices, not yours. Third, please remain seated and silent during the Q&A unless you are writing or submitting question cards, which you can do. Our vendors are down there. 4, to repeat, league policy permits only authorized recordings of these forums, like we just discussed. Taking clips or segments is not authorized. The league is recording this forum and will repost it on our LWVPWM YouTube channel this week, long before the election. We'll repeat that later. Lastly, any audience member who violates the agreed procedures to the forum or who disrupts the forum by ignoring these audience expectations after being warned may be asked to leave. So those are the rules. Tonight we will be hearing from the 2 candidates vying to be your mayor for the next 2 years. They are George Maragos and Pam Panzenbeck. When the candidates arrived, they drew straws for speaking order. Ms. Panzenbeck will be going first for opening remarks as well as closing. Mr. Maragos will be going second for opening remarks as well as closing. I will now ask the audience to applaud briefly after each opening statement and then hold all other applause and other responses until after the closing statements. Ms. Panzenbeck, please begin.
Good evening, George, and welcome everyone. Thank you to the ladies of the League of Women Voters for organizing this event. My name is Pamela Donaldson Panzenbeck. 2 years ago at this forum, I expressed my desire to be your mayor, and I was proud to be elected to serve the residents of Glen Cove, the 37th best place to live, a designation given by Money magazine. We are the only municipality in the entire tri-state area to receive this designation. A lifelong Glen Cover, I am pleased to say that I love Glen Cove. I'm a graduate of Glen Cove High School and a proud former student of Landing School. My husband and I raised our 3 children here, and I've devoted my life to volunteerism in my community. If you know me, you know that I am truly a person who loves to meet new people and be of help wherever I can. I am not afraid of hard work. I am a great supporter of bringing new activities to Glen Cove and showing my city off to newcomers. The city has sponsored several outdoor events and allowed outside agencies to do the same. People are happy to be back outside enjoying each other's company. Being a 4th generation Glen Cover, I thought I knew everyone, but I've had the pleasure of meeting so many great people and their lovely families over the last year and a half. I'm happy to say that when I took office as Glen Cove's mayor in January of 2022, I hit the ground running. I'm very proud of the number of accomplishments of the Mayor Pam administration. Much of this could not have been done without the hardworking city employees and the relationship I have developed with many of them. Much needed capital improvements have been made to all of our parks and many of our buildings. Roads are being repaired and sidewalks are being replaced around town. I've received a great many thank yous for the repairs at Morgan Park. My administration has been doing repairs and making upgrades to our water wells. Every single well has had an improvement. We've made a commitment to upgrade equipment for our city workers. Our first responders and emergency services are being provided with new updated equipment and training. We've placed a great deal of focus on cybersecurity and enhancing productivity through technology. We implemented a 24/7 security operations center. Our code enforcement department was revamped with a new director. Fiscal responsibility is something that is very important to my administration. The deficit has been reduced by 1.5 million, from 2.2 million to just over 700,000. This year we received the news that Glen Cove earned another Moody's Credit Outlook upgrade. We're currently rated at Baa2 positive, first time since 2018. We have held the line on taxes. I'm committed to my beloved veterans and their monuments. Things have been going in a very positive direction for Glen Cove for the past 2 years. There is still much to do. Thank you.
My name is George Maragos, and I had the honor of serving as, for 8 years as your Nassau County Controller. But before I go further, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for making this event possible, to hopefully inform all of you to make an intelligent and informed choice about the future and the future of your children. Because we all live here and we want to make this place a wonderful place to live and grow our families. As your Nassau County Controller for 8 years, we took us a huge budget deficit, and we worked hard for 6 years without raising taxes to balance the budget. And we did that. We did this, and I was primarily responsible by making sure that every dollar was well spent and accounted for. Before, in my private life, I was an entrepreneur, a private businessman. I founded a company that on Wall Street that I grew into a multi-million-dollar company that I'm proud to say that my sons took it over and grew it even more. And it allowed me to run for public office, to give back to the community. I'm an immigrant. I was not born here. I came when I was 8 years old, and I've achieved the American dream. And my only purpose is to give back to the community and to deploy my skills, my knowledge, and expertise, both in business, in management, and in finance, to make Glen Cove a much better place to live. And the reason I decided to run is because I've seen a continuous erosion of our quality of life. I've been to many, I've attended many council meetings where I've heard many residents stand up at the end of the meetings and complain about unpaved streets, about our empty downtown stores, about our crumbling garages, about frequent flooding of their streets, about speeding without any court enforcement. I've heard complaints about people calling City Hall and their calls not being returned, their issues not being addressed. So let's not live in a wishful thinking that everything is great. It's not great. The state controller in Napoli announced just last Friday that the city finances are in a fiscal stress, that our reserves have been depleted, and that can only lead into higher property taxes or less services, which will continue the erosion of our quality of life. Unbeknownst to many of you, our water supply is being monitored by the county without beknownst to City Hall. And I can go on and on, that our quality of life needs to be improved. We need to make significant fiscal improvements to our city. Thank you.
We will now begin with your questions. As a reminder to the audience, please hold all of your applause until the end of the forum. We've assembled here from candidates, not from our fellow citizens. First question goes to, apologies for mispronouncing your name, Mr. Maragos. What do you consider to be the city's greatest fiscal challenge?
The mismanagement and the waste that we've seen in this government, where dollars are not being spent. We've had an example just this past week, last Tuesday, when $600,000 was proposed to be spent to improve an air conditioning system on a building that the city was not sure it owned. That's wasteful. It should be investigated. It's fraud. And $600,000 to maintain, to improve an air conditioned system, that's appalling. That's how your money is being wasted here. And that's just one example of many more situations that I've seen. I've seen a budget last year that underestimated expenses, that used one-shot revenues to balance the budget, and yet our DPW workers complain that their equipment is outdated and unsafe to operate. And there is no communications between the workers and management. That leads usually to lack of productivity and higher cost to the taxpayers.
Thank you, Ms. Panzenbeck.
Well, nothing could be further from the truth. The other night it was brought up that we weren't sure who actually owned the senior center. The CDA owns the senior center. We are spending that money for a brand new HVAC system. It's a very large building. It is the home away from home of our seniors. It is a heating and cooling system. That is our cooling center and our warming center for everyone in Glen Cove. It has not been repaired for many years. It's at the point that they can't get parts for it anymore. They have to manufacture parts. Just so you also know, I just ordered 2 brand new garbage trucks for our DPW workers. I've ordered them lots of new equipment, more than anyone before. The state controller's report has us at significant stress. We are 2.1 or 2.2 points away from a no stress designation. We had moderate stress, which is bad. Susceptible stress, we have moved along the line, and we are much, much closer to a no fiscal stress designation. So that is my explanation for that. I am going to probably close this year again with an operating surplus. I don't spend any money unless I know what fund line it's coming from. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. How can we improve unkept properties that are not conforming to our city codes, Ms. Panzenbeck?
It's really very tricky. Properties in city codes, sometimes what you think is not in good condition is your opinion, but we have just hired a brand new code enforcement director. I've revamped the code enforcement department. My director and her worker, they are out every single day. So we've become very proactive on code enforcement.
Mr. Maragos?
that is an issue that we had at the county with zombie homes. And we addressed head on. And those homes are usually owned by banks. So they have a responsibility to maintain them for the benefit of the neighbors, in the city. And the way we solved it was to impose fines on the owners, and very quickly a lot of those properties were improved. So that's what I would do here in Glen Cove as well.
Thank you. Next, do you think that Glen Cove needs any more cluster housing and or apartment units? If so, why? And if not, why not? Mr. Maragos.
Affordable housing is a real need in our community. We've granted, I would say, multiple hundreds of millions, close to $1 billion in tax abatements to RXR for the various developments here. And the mayor voted for all of those tax abatements. And they give us 30, 40 years, unprecedented, to create housing, dense housing that is mainly unaffordable to our residents. I think we need to focus on less dense housing without tax abatements to alleviate the housing crisis, the affordable housing crisis that we have, especially for our young people, and our families. Targeted, made it hopefully towards the downtown area as a method to also revitalize our business district.
Ms. Panzenbeck.
So when I became the mayor, just about every appointment I had with someone coming to look to develop property, we really put a hold on what we decided to allow to come to Glen Cove. The project at Garvey's Point that Mr. Maragos is speaking of was controversial at the time. Everybody that was against it absolutely loves it. They love Garvey's Point. Every one of the apartments built by RXR for rental, I believe the buildings are 99% rented. People love living there. It's been a great thing for our community. Governor Hochul has a plan for housing. We are going to probably have to do something with Governor Hochul's plan. We have just opened Georgia Green, which is workforce housing, 55 units down at Garvey's Point. It went on a lottery. They are all moved in at this time.
Thank you. Next question. Traffic concerns are voiced by drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians. Questions that people submitted mentioned Woolsey Avenue, Landing Road, and several other places. What do you propose to do? Ms. Panzenbeck.
Well, that's really a tough one because everybody complains about traffic. I happen to live on a very trafficy road myself. People's complaints mostly are speeding and litter. Speeding is pretty much handled by enforcement. I call the police when I have speeding issues at certain neighborhoods. They are very, very proactive. And then as soon as they leave that area and they go to another area, the speeding sometimes comes back. But in the end of the day, people want our community to model Huntington. And my daughter lives in Babylon. There's more traffic in Huntington and Babylon than anywhere else. And if people want to live somewhere, you're bound to have a lot of traffic. So that's it.
Mr. Maragos.
Well, the issue is traffic, but the bigger issue, which is safety and speeding. And I've heard many complaints of our residents that nothing is being done. They call the mayor's office to complain, no calls back, no action. And it's frustrating for them. And furthermore, on those roads that people speed, they also have parking issues. They're wide streets and they have parking on both sides. So a wide street now is turned into a single lane. So not only people speed, but they're also unsafe. They can cause accidents and, thank forbid, hurt somebody or a small child. And again, the common complaint that I've heard is that the mayor has been unresponsive. Nothing is being done. Nothing has changed in the past 2 years. That has to be addressed. My administration will be open door, having frequent town hall meetings, and I will always commit to return your calls to any issue that you have.
Thank you. Next, how much do you anticipate the parking garage repairs to take? Who will pay for it, and do you think they get enough usage to warrant repair, or should we demolish them? Mr. Maragos.
Well, the longer we delay, the more expensive it's gonna be to repair it. And we've delayed too long, and they become unsafe. They're an embarrassment to our downtown. We need to invest in repairing them. We have the capital funds, believe it or not. The capital budget was approved, and it was part of a Glen Cove had a 5-year plan to spend about $12 million a year in capital improvement. In the last capital improvement plan that the mayor passed, the capital improvements were reduced to $5 million from the $12 million that was budgeted in the multi-year plan. So the money's sitting there, our infrastructure is declining, our garages are crumbling, and yet we're not doing anything. And it's only going to be more expensive the longer we delay. So that's mismanagement.
Ms. Panzenbeck.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say that my policemen are very responsive about speeding, and I return phone calls to everyone. People are shocked when I call them back. Our parking garages are approximately 50 years old. Nothing has been done for probably 50 years to repair them, to maintain them. They are in terrible condition. If we take them down, it's probably just as much money. We've been looking into our options. It's probably just as much money to take them down as it is to rebuild them. There is no $12 million in the capital plan sitting aside for the garages. We will be looking towards federal funding and grants to help with the garages. Last year, our capital plan of $5 million were for many other things. Only $75,000 was sent to do some face work on the garages. But it is not something we will be able to do alone. We will need a lot of help from the federal government, and we're looking at that now.
Change topics a little bit. There is nothing here for our youth. We need a rec center. What's your vision about this, Ms. Panzenbeck?
Well, there's a lot of things here for our youth. We have beaches, we have a golf course, we have a driving range, we have parks. We just spent a lot of money refurbishing the stadium. The stadium had been left in a state of disrepair for many, many years. We just put all new bleachers, new doors, new roofs on the concession stands. I have just spent a lot of money redoing a basketball court, which is in the parking lot of the stadium over on the left. It's completely refurbished. It is a home run, and it is a hit. So the kids are loving it. There's plenty here to do. You just have to be a little imaginative. There's plenty here to do for kids.
Mr. Maragos.
Well, here we have a situation, where the mayor is not listening to the residents. I've heard the same complaint. Yes, we have some very nice facilities, but we don't have enough. Our residents, our young moms, need more activities for their kids, especially after school and in the summer. I think, yes, we need a community center. We need a public swimming pool. And I'm willing to listen to the community for other suggestions as to how we can provide more activities and make our community a much better place to live.
Thank you. We need a theater space, and North Shore Village Theater is looking for a home in Glen Cove. As mayor, how can you help make it happen?
So without going...
Oh, sorry, Mr. Maragos.
Oh.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. We need a theater space in North Shore Village Theater. Sorry, I'm gonna say this one more time. We need a theater space, and North Shore Village Theater is looking for a home in Glen Cove. As mayor, how can you help make it happen?
I've articulated in my campaign, as part of my vision to revitalize the downtown, is to build a performing arts center. I think that's something that I've heard a number of people express an interest in revitalizing our downtown. I think it's a great idea, and as mayor, I will work very hard to build or provide for a performing arts center in downtown. Bring people and provide activities. We talked about activities for our kids. Let's also provide activities and entertainment for our adults and seniors.
Ms. Panzenbeck.
So we have a number of performing arts groups in Glen Cove, a couple of children's, and we are currently working on a space, securing a space for a theater. I don't know where they are in the negotiations, but we're currently looking at something specific at this time without getting into it. I'm a big supporter of the children's theater and the gentlemen that run our theater programs.
How can Glen Cove get a store like Rainview or Target, Ms. Panzenbeck?
Very hard. That's called an anchor store. We're working very hard to get a Target or a Target Express. Let's see, one of the issues is when we get stores, we don't have to promise that we're going to support anything that comes into Glen Cove. And it's very difficult because every day when I go home, I have an Amazon box or an Amazon thing delivered to my front steps. We need to ensure that we're going to support these stores. I've tried to get Target in the past. We need to find a location and have an anchor.
Mr. Maragos?
That has been the strategy of the city all along, and not only this administration, without a vision, without a long-term plan for the economic development of the city, to pick and choose, or not pick and choose, but anybody that shows up with a commercial idea to facilitate. That's not the way to build a community. We need to as a community, develop a vision, an economic plan, and then work to achieve it. I'm more in favor of inviting and knowledge-based industries, biotechnology, new methods of transportation that we purely lack. I'd like to bring those companies, those industries, help our young people develop those ideas, their businesses. I'm not sure like a big Target store or a Costco store, belongs here. I have an open mind, but let's, as a community, put together a business plan, a master plan for the city, and which expresses the visions of our community, and then work to make it a reality.
Mr. Maragos, what would you do as mayor about abandoned homes and absentee landlords? How would you approach this issue for commercial properties, and what does Glen Cove need to do to fix this?
Can you repeat that question?
Yes. What would you do about abandoned homes and absentee landlords, particularly for commercial properties?
That's an interesting one. Abandoned homes, if they are not conforming to code, I would enforce the code. We have also issues with a lot of illegal rentals in our community, and again, everybody's turning a blind eye to them, which affects the quality of life of young families. And I've heard this complaint that have come into the community, bought a home, and now the next door neighbors sells and abandons the home. So we need to enforce our codes. I think we need to, I'm not suggesting that we evict people because they don't have any place to go, and we do have a homeless problem as well. But we need to address the illegal housing issue, and I would suggest one of the ways to address it is to change some of the zoning to allow multiple family rentals. And of course, that will also help the city because it will increase the taxes on those properties, and they will be made safer for the residents to live there.
Ms. Panzenbeck?
Could you just repeat the question?
I will repeat it one more time. What would you do as mayor about abandoned homes and absentee landlords? How would you approach this issue for commercial properties? What is Glen Cove need to fix this?
Well, absentee landlords is something we are addressing at this time through my new code enforcement director. She has just been wonderful. Usually when you get into trouble, it's because your neighbor reports you. So if you have another part of that question, unless it's the way that Mr. Maragos answered it, about apartments, illegal apartments, We are absolutely taking a very strong position on illegal housing. There are plenty of apartments, there's a whole sections of Glen Cove that have multiple family homes, 2-family homes. Most of us lived in them when we were first married, for a few years before we were able to buy our own homes. But it's really all through code enforcement, and that's really how it will all work. Zombie homes, I think we've done better with zombie homes. I think there are far fewer than when I became the mayor, but we are on top of all of those things. When we have a zombie home, we have our DPW department go maintain the property, and then we charge the bank for it.
Ms. Panzenbeck, do you plan on making Glen Cove a sanctuary city? If yes, please explain.
I will never make Glen Cove a sanctuary city. Never, ever, ever.
No applause, by the way.
Don't applause.
Please go.
It's not to say everyone doesn't deserve a home. People deserve a home, but we will never be a sanctuary city under my administration.
Never say never.
No more comments? Thank you. Mr. Maragos.
I agree, and I repeatedly stated that Glen Cove will not be a sanctuary city. But we also need to recognize that we have a homeless problem here that the mayor hasn't talked about. And we need to address that because they are our residents. You know, and we can't turn a blind eye. It's not good for the community, it's not good for a resident, it's not humane, it's not good for our homeless. We need to address that issue, and I intend to do so.
Mr. Maragos, and apologies for the length of this. I'm a little confused. The current administration takes credit for current bond rating upgrades, but current state comptroller Tom DiNapoli says it's getting worse. Which is it? Also, what would each candidate do to increase it? And how do we go about having extra money for a rainy day? Mr. Maragos.
Well, I think the New York State Comptroller is right. Okay? The fiscal situation in Glen Cove is under fiscal stress. And I think it's going to get worse before it can get better. And you don't need to look any further. The city has not yet published its audited financial statements for the year 2022. What are they hiding? You know, State DiNapoli just peeked into their numbers for 2022, and they were not good. The audited financial statements are going to have more surprises and more bad news for the residents of Glen Cove. And I saw a budget, and I spoke at the budget hearing last year for the 2023 budget, that it relied on one-shot revenues, drawing down on reserves, and badly underestimating the expenses. So unless, for some miracle, the numbers are manipulated, I would expect that there would be a significant deficit and maybe a wipeout of the reserves when the audited financial statements are disclosed for this year. And there's no reason that they should not be published. They weren't published last year or the year before. The residents have a need to know the real financial situation of Glen Cove, and it doesn't look pretty right now.
Well, I beg to differ because I took office, and when I took office, we had a $2.2 million deficit. At the end of my first year, last year, the deficit is now down. We reduced the deficit by $1.5 million. So I don't know how you think that happened, but we are very, very careful. We are expecting, at the end of last year, the deficit is about $730,000, which is a major improvement. I inherited a deficit. I'm working to attack it. It doesn't happen overnight. Last year, I did not raise taxes because we got a pilot payment back from Nassau County. The pilot was calculated appropriately, and I did not raise taxes. You can call that one-shot revenue, but that is money that was due to our taxpayers. Our senior citizens are having a great deal of difficulty living here, and I cannot look them in the eye at the senior center and raise their taxes when I had that revenue coming in.
Can I respond to that?
Sorry, we don't allow it. The question about the bidding process. As mayor, how would you advertise bid specs, give those bid replies? Also, if you have any comments on how to improve the entire bidding process. Ms.
Yeah.
Panzenbeck?
That's fine.
Yes, it is.
Oh, that's it, okay, I'm sorry. So, I just wrote notes because I don't remember these details all the time. We have a purchasing policy, I have a purchasing agent. She pretty much handles all of this. Anything $20,000 or more for commodities has to go out to bid. Anything $35,000 or more goes out for public works. Under that, we just solicit for quotes. It's basically pretty simple. We have a cooperative agreement with BOCES, between BOCES and the city of Glen Cove, that we can use the vendors that are approved by BOCES. It's really pretty basic. And we go out to bid for just about everything, or get quotes for just about every good or service that we use. It's pretty basic, it's pretty straightforward. We don't get to just pick and choose who we would like to do business with.
Mr. Maragos?
Okay. Well, I'm not sure that it's so basic and straightforward, because the mayor at last week's council meeting was asked a question with regards to the view grill. Where was the bids advertised? And there was no answer. There was no answer. And the result was, maybe there wasn't. It wasn't advertised, and the result was pathetic. There were only 2 bidders. That's not gonna result in a good outcome for the city. And most of our local restaurateurs weren't even aware, and therefore did not bid. And consequently, the city will not be getting the best deal and the best facility, because it wasn't open to truly competitive bidding. That is another poor indication of the mismanagement in our city.
Mr. Maragos, what is the status of the Glen Cove ferry and private bus service as commuting options to New York City?
I think that's a city resource that has been neglected. Hasn't been discussed at city council meetings by the mayor. The city is still sitting on approximately $15 million liability to the federal government because it has failed to find an operator for the ferry. I think we need to be creative. I think there are new technologies that we have to now deploy. I think it could be a valuable resource, both as a computer, for commuting, as well as for entertainment type cruises, and maybe other ideas. So I don't want to give the government $15 million. We will try to certainly have that liability forgiven, but if it's not, I think we need to think of the Glen Cove ferry as an important resource for our community.
Ms. Panzenbeck?
So we actually did a survey last year all over the neighboring areas where our ferry would service, and we asked people about ferry ridership, and we met with 2 ferry operators, and we kind of targeted one. We were gonna run a ferry pilot for 2 months. I know there are a few out there, and I took the during the summer of hell, I took the ferry, but when I took the ferry from the summer of hell, they took your Long Island Railroad ticket dollars, and you were able to go to the city and come back for that price. When we looked at operating a ferry, the cost of the ferry would be probably about $45 a day, is probably the most, $45 a ride is what we would be charging. We do have somewhat of a subsidy from RXR, about $875,000. But when we drove around and looked at the amount of cars at the train stations, we really realized that people are not commuting as they were before, and we didn't think it would be a good time to start a ferry for 2 months that would possibly be a failure. We want a successful operation, and this is not the time. Maybe next spring will be the time.
Ms. Panzenbeck, is there a plan by either candidate to privatize water and sanitation? If so, how does that benefit the city?
Well, that's a an interesting question, and every time there's a campaign that comes out, don't vote for this one, they're gonna private, they said that, they have said that about me at one point in time. Interestingly so, our DPW workers, probably 90% of them are our residents as well. So they live here, they work here. I have no intention of privatizing our DPW services. I just bought them 2 new garbage trucks. We've ordered them, they aren't here yet. We've been working very hard to get them new equipment that they haven't had for many years. They recently got a roll-off container. They've gotten some gators. The other day, someone came over and said, our lawnmowers are all broken, I'm frustrated. We got them new lawnmowers, we got them new lawnmowers. So why would we privatize something like that? They're there, some of them are here. They live here, they work here. And water, our water systems, just about our water. I'm probably spending more on water than any other mayor over these next couple of years. Thank you.
Mr. Maragos.
Yeah, I have no intention of privatizing our DPW, our police department, our EMS services, or any other municipal service. I think we need to, we're proud of the work that they do, to rely on their, to keep us safe, to keep our streets clean, to respond to emergency situations that we have. And you're not gonna get that in any private service, and you're not gonna get it at the expense that we're paying for. So yes, I would not privatize, I would work with them so that we all become more efficient in what we do, so that we can deliver better services to our community. And what you've been hearing here is, you know, because we're approaching now election day, so all of these things that should have been done almost in day one, such as code enforcement, such as speeding violations, such as buying equipment that was badly needed. We're making promises now on something that we should have done a year ago or 2 years ago when this administration came in. The need was there, it was there then, and it's certainly here now.
Mr. Maragos, Glen Cove is very diverse with a large Salvadorian population and other Hispanic residents. How can you serve everyone and bring everyone together? Mr. Maragos.
Yes, you know, something interesting that happened in my career when I was a controller, and I think all you know that I was a Republican before switching to become a Democrat in 2016. My background was not political, I was in private industry, and I thought it would have been beneficial to the party to reach out to minority communities of color, to expand their Republican base. And to my chagrin, I was surprised that I was told that, you know, you should not be going in those communities because those people don't vote for us. It's appalling to hear that. And that was one of the reasons that I switched from Republican to Democrat. Because I believe the purpose of government is to serve everybody, and especially to serve the people that have the greatest need. So, almost a third of our population here in Glen Cove is Hispanic, and yet they're not part of this community. This administration has not reached out to them, to include them, to hear them, and address their needs. I intend to do that.
Ms. Panzenbeck.
That just shocked me, that response just shocked me. Glen Cove has always been an incredibly diverse community. It has been the greatest place to grow up because you grew up with kids of all different nationalities, all different races when you were in school. So when I was in high school, or probably when I was in high school, there was an influx of kids coming from Italy. They stuck together, and then after a point in time, they assimilated. We all became friends. There is now a lot of Hispanic immigrants. I'm a member of St. Patrick's Church. They are all there. If you go to our sports games, if you go to our schools, these families are all a big part of our community. Believe me, I don't think that they feel that they're not a part of our community. And I have never been told, don't go and speak to those kinds of people because they're not going to vote for you. I am the mayor of everyone. I help everyone. I don't know where you get this idea that I don't reject people and respond to people. I help everyone.
Next question, to totally change themes. What do you think of two-year staggered terms for the mayor and council? Everyone can be voted out at once right now. No one gets much experience in a two-year term. Ms. Panzenbeck.
So it's very, very tricky. I am a proponent of longer terms and staggered terms, whatever a community decides. At this point in time, I would be the only person that would really benefit from a term, from a new term. So I'm a little reluctant to put something like that forward because at this point in time, I would be the beneficiary of a term, of a longer term. But it's something that needs to be studied by the community to decide what they want. 4-year terms, I think it's been voted down, for the mayor has been voted down 2 times. And it's just interesting because supervisors, when you really think about it, in the town supervisors near us all serve 2-year terms. The council serve 4 terms, but they serve 2-year terms. So it's something we really all need together as a community to look into, what the community wants. But at this point in time, really it benefits the elected people a longer term.
Mr. Maragos.
Yeah, I would agree. I would leave it up to the community to decide. I think there are pros and cons on both sides, whether it's 2 years or 4 years. And I think there should be a public debate within our community to address that. And maybe if I'm elected mayor, that's the type of forum that I would organize and debate the pros and cons and hopefully reach a consensus and put it to a referendum.
How would you use the profits from the golf course? Would you put it back to keep the golf course beautiful or put it in the city's general fund, Mr. Maragos?
I think under state law, the revenues from the park department have to be put back into the park or benefits for the users of the park. So I would put it back in. It's a wonderful resource for our community, and I will continue to invest in it, to improve it, to enhance that enjoyment.
Ms. Panzenbeck.
So we've invested a great amount of money in the golf course this year because it was dilapidated and dreary. When I took office, the driving range was completely collapsed. The pro shop was shut down because of mildew. They were operating out of trailers. Golf is a wonderful thing. I really am not sure that after all these years, the golf course has made a profit. We spend a great deal of money operating all of our parks. We have our golf course, we have Morgan Park, we have Pascucci Field, we have the stadium. So to assume that the golf course makes money, it really does not. But we put money into it anyway.
How do you propose achieving agreement among stakeholders when it comes to affordable housing, Ms. Panzenbeck?
Just repeat that.
How do you propose achieving agreement among stakeholders when it comes to affordable housing?
Well, affordable, it's just interesting. Every project that is planned has to have different components of affordable housing, workforce housing. So pretty much the apartments are basically very similar, and I don't think anybody knows who's in affordable housing and who is not. So, I mean, you're talking about a harmony among people who are living together and next door to each other. It's kind of a complicated question. But when people are living in an apartment like Village Square, there are Section 8 tenants in there. There are tenants of all different levels. Nobody really knows who is who and who makes what and who pays what rent.
Ms. Maragos.
As I mentioned before, we have an affordable housing crisis in Glen Cove, throughout Long Island, throughout the state. So what's going to be our solution locally to alleviate that situation? How can we be creative? I propose that, I'm against granting tax abatements, 30, 40 years tax abatements to big corporations to build big developments. We need to maintain a suburban way of life. That's what makes Glen Cove special. I intend to encourage and hopefully with community support, change the zoning in the downtown area near transportation modes to low height, maybe 2-3 story building to allow the individual landlords to see an incentive to create more housing, more rental housing that would be affordable. And I'd like to have the opportunity to sell that to the community. It's not going to be disruptive. It's going to be as a method to revitalize our downtown, keep our youth and young families here, and create the affordable housing that we badly need. So we need solutions, and I intend, with cooperation and consent from the community, to create those solutions.
So we are currently looking at,
Sorry, but no rebuttals.
oh,
Yes.
I didn't-
I believe we are now on Mr. Maragos for garbage and recycling workers are always in danger of cars hitting them. Is there any way that drivers can be double fined for not showing safety to our workers?
I'm sorry, repeat that. I missed some of the key words.
Garbage and recycling workers are always in danger of cars hitting them. Is there any way that
I'm sorry?
cars hitting I believe the garbage and recycling workers?
Okay.
Is there a way that drivers can be double fined for not showing safety to our workers?
I think that may be something that we should sit down and discuss. There may be other safety recommendations that you probably want to offer. And it's, I would be always a strong supporter of making our workers safe and giving them a safe work environment. They work for us. We need to support them both economically as well from a safety perspective, and I intend to do that. And that's, the purpose of good leadership and management. It's about teamwork. It's about the leadership, the administration working together with all its workers so that they're given the tools and the respect that they need, they deserve, in order to perform for all of us.
Ms. Panzenbeck.
I know who put that question in there. I can only just guess who put that question in there. But whenever I'm driving, the garbage trucks, the drivers are horrible. The garbage truck driver is really the gentleman that's responsible to make sure his workers are safe. He has a tremendous responsibility. I don't know, possibly finding people for passing a garbage truck, just as we're going to start with bus patrol for passing school buses, might be something we should really look into. I don't know, and keeping their equipment safe. Our garbage trucks were so old, and I ordered them this year. I didn't order them just now. I ordered them early in the year, but it takes a long time to get these types of equipment. There's a supply chain and there's a labor shortage. One of our garbage trucks, the back fell off. It was crushed, and the gentleman would have been killed if not for the driver in the front. Thank you.
To return to a subject raised earlier, you talked about the parks for the children, but what do they have indoors for children in the winter months and during the fall? There's nothing here. The closest bowling alley is not here. Ms. Panzenbeck.
Yes, you're absolutely right. There's nothing here for children inside. We have an entire corridor of Seacliff Avenue, which I've been looking to try to attract some people to come to, like I call it the climbing walls. We've looked to try to attract some things like that to come here, but there really is not much for children. I try to think of what my children did when they were children. We didn't have things. We went to the movies. We did have a bowling alley, but we're looking certainly welcoming to anybody who wants to come and bring something inside for our children.
Mr. Maragos.
Well, the mayor said it. There's nothing here for our kids. We need more activities. We need to listen to the community, you know, and provide more activities for our young people, our kids, our seniors. We need this to be an enjoyable place to live. And I intend to make it such.
Thank you. Mr. Maragos, what is the status of Crescent Beach? How many more years to see this corrected?
Well, that's a question that should be asked to the mayor, because, you know, she's been in office for the past 2 years, and the beach is still closed, and because of bacteria. Why has it taken 2 years? You know, we have 12 miles of wonderful shoreline. Nothing has been done to either clean it up or develop it for the commercial aspect, as well as the enjoyment, the outdoor enjoyment aspects of it. We need to pay attention to our shoreline, to our water supply, to our environment, and I intend to do that.
Ms. Panzenbeck.
So you're talking about 12 miles of shoreline. Just so you know, I spent a fortune this year, and everyone has thanked me for all of the improvements that I have made at Morgan Park. Morgan Park was deteriorated, dilapidated, and I have repaired the stairs, the seawall. I have plans to do the pavilion. But in terms of Crescent Beach has been closed for a great many years. It breaks my heart. It was my childhood beach. We had gotten a grant for $200,000 to do research. Tomorrow, Nassau County is coming, $200,000 for a culvert, which is gonna go under Cobble Court. They're coming out here to look at that tomorrow. 2 of the residents spent $75,000 each to put helix filters in their ponds. We actually have gotten very, very close to opening Crescent Beach. The numbers got just so close, and then as soon as it got hot, the numbers flared up. They were up and down all summer. We came very, very close. We feel we will be very close, and hopefully by next summer. This is an environmental issue. Believe me.
Ms. Panzenbeck, what is the goal of revisiting the master plan?
Well, we just are working on the master plan. We hired a firm to go over develop a new comprehensive master plan. The last one was in 2009. We've had several meetings. We expect it to be adopted by this time next year. We've had committee meetings, and they are looking around. They're going to we've had open meetings in City Hall 1, where they've asked people what they would like to see in Glen Cove, and that's what we're doing with that at this point in time. They will look at zoning, we'll look at our downtown, and the desires of the people who live in the community.
Mr. Maragos.
This is a good example of putting the cart before the horse. You know, the master plan committee that was set up, first of all, was composed of about 50 people. And you can imagine getting anything done with 50 people at a time. But more importantly, half those people did not live in Glen Cove. So how is their point of view relevant to our community and to envisioning the future of Glen Cove? It's not. And I said putting the cart before the horse, because this committee, rather than after extensive deliberations that they should have had, they should have put out a vision, a proposal as to what this master plan should be. They have not. But they asked the residents, the public like yourselves, that had no forewarning for their ideas. That's no way to develop a master plan. You hire experts to conceive of alternatives and then present those alternatives to the residents for their opinions, their points of view, their recommendations. So we're not any closer to having a master plan. I think we're going backwards. And that's something has to change. That mentality, that management style, which results in no results, no outcomes, has to change. And this is where I bring my management skills and leadership to make our
I'm sorry, we're out of time for that question. have a couple questions left, so this is not the last question. I'm just giving you all a little bit of warning. Mr. Maragos, there have recently been shootings at the Glen Cove mansion and in Manhasset, as well as a smash and grab in Greenville. What are you doing about the surge in suburban crime?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
There have recently been shootings at the Glen Cove mansion and in Manhasset, as well as smash and grab in Greenville. What are you doing about the surge in suburban crime?
Well, I believe that Glen Cove is a safe community because of our great police department. So in those situations, I would ask the police department to increase police presence so that we don't have those situations. That would be the obvious first step. And then, of course, we have to look at the other statistics and decide what additional actions we need to take with our police department to address any rising crime situations.
Ms. Panzenbeck?
So the shooting at the mansion last year was a one-time thing. It was a terrible thing. The owner of the mansion just let his property be used by people not from our community. They had they had a party. Something erupted. There was a shooting. The owner was not on site. I was on site immediately after that happened. Our police were all there. We have a police department that is best ever in Glen Cove. I have actually hired 7 new police officers since I have become the mayor, just because crime is something that people are very worried about. And our community is amazingly safe. They are proactive, they are everywhere. They are role models to our children. The wonderful thing about our police department is a great many of them grew up here. So when they're walking down the street, they know you. They know who they're dealing with. And I can't say enough about them. Thank you.
And lastly, for the final question, Ms. Panzenbeck, what is your #1 goal beginning January 1st, 2024?
So, contrary to what Mr. Maragos seems to think, my management and leadership skills are wonderful. I've accomplished more in a year and 9 months than many of my predecessors, and a lot of people that work in City Hall will attest to that. I work very, very hard. I've tackled a lot of great issues, and my objective will be to really keep the momentum going. I have a lot of projects in the hopper. I have a list of capital improvements that need to be done. We evaluate that every year in March. I have ordered, we're waiting for 2 brand new fire trucks to come for our firemen. So my idea is just, I've been doing the job of a mayor, and I'd just like to keep it going for another 2 years. Keep the momentum going. Go to work, no to the grindstone, mind your business, and do your job.
Mr. Maragos?
I think my first priority would be to fix the city finances, to bring them under control, to modernize city government so that we have money left over to invest in our infrastructure and our workers. Those are the immediate, almost crisis situations I would say that we have that need immediate addressing that affect our quality of life. And if they're not addressed, what the outcome is going to be that our residents are going to be facing much higher property taxes. And I certainly don't want that to happen. And we cannot turn a blind eye that the state controller has said, you know, we're under financial stress. We shouldn't dispute that. We should own up to it and deal with it. And without turning to the taxpayers for more money to make our government administration more efficient, and less costly to our taxpayers.
Thank you. Now, before we take closing statements from the candidates, I would like to remind everyone that Election Day is Tuesday, November 7th at your regular polling place. Early voting begins Saturday, October 28th and runs through Sunday, November 5th. The closest early voting site is the Glen Cove City Hall, but you can vote early at any of the 27 early polling sites in Nassau County. Also, a recording of this forum will be available on the LWV, so that stands for League of Women Voters, LWVPWM YouTube channel within 24 hours. Please put Wednesday, October 25th, 7 p.m. on your calendars for the Glen Cove City Council Candidates Forum. So now to the closing statements. Before we do that, please offer applause to both candidates for their willingness to answer your questions tonight together on the same stage.
Thank you to voters for giving George and me the opportunity to meet you all and for listening to us tonight. I love serving as your mayor, making so many great improvements to Glen Cove, to our parks and recreational facilities, benefiting all of our residents. Many of our buildings, such as City Hall, the Senior Center, the Firehouse, and the Police Department, have had much needed capital improvements. It has been quite a challenge, a very rewarding experience, and I have achieved a great deal of satisfaction building tomorrow's Glen Cove today. I enjoy meeting new people and helping residents in any way that I can. I believe my year and 9 months have made a significant difference, and I'm asking you to help me keep the momentum going. When re-elected, I promise to maintain my Glen Cove enthusiasm and my strong work ethic. I owe a special thank you to my staff and the city workers, without whom none of these accomplishments would be possible. More capital improvements are currently in the works, but there is still so much work to be done. Major infrastructure projects, specifically the water systems and parking garages, need to continue to be addressed. I have devoted myself during much of my adulthood to volunteerism and service, long before I was ever elected or thought about being elected, and I promise to continue to do so as long as I am physically able. I do these things for all the right reasons, giving back to my community that has given so much to me. I love my hometown and everything in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Maragos, would you begin your closing statement?
The choice that we have at this upcoming election is between leadership, experience, and integrity versus what we've seen is mismanagement and waste in our government, and a lack of vision for the future, what we want to be. And it's unfortunate, and I see it clearly. I hope you do as well, and demand more of your government, more of the administration, to better spend your money and provide a better quality of life with better infrastructure, better resources, and more facilities for our residents, especially our young people, our kids, and our seniors. That's not happening now, and I hear it very loud that it needs to happen, and that's what I intend to do, to bring a professional approach to government, as I've done in all my life, and achieve results for you, to make your lives better, easier, and make Glen Cove an even more wonderful community for us to live and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you both. So to the candidates, the League appreciates your willingness to answer questions from voters thoughtfully and candidly and in civil discourse with your challenger. And we salute your commitment to serving your fellow citizens by running and serving this office. So thank you. Thank you. Lastly, thank you also to everyone in the audience for your thoughtful questions, for spending the evening educating yourselves about both candidates, and for your engagement with democracy. Voters like you keep our democracy thriving. This forum is now ended.